anybody talks about country cooking, for some reason, one of the meals that always tends to pop into my head is meatloaf. I don't know why, but for some reason with me, meatloaf and country just kind of go together to me. When I think of meatloaf, I think of a comfort food. So I think of country where it's peaceful and comforting. So I don't know, maybe I'm just a weirdo like that, but meatloaf to me is country. Now, I haven't had a whole lot of experience with meatloaf because the experience that I had with it growing up was not good. My mom didn't make it, but other people that I had tasted their meatloaf, I didn't like it. I had two experiences really with it growing up. One was this person just kind of smushed a whole bunch of ground meat in a pan, drowned it in ketchup and cheese, and put it on a plate, and it was a soppy, greasy mess, and it was just really nasty. I ate it because I was being nice, but it was not good. And my other experience that I had with it was another person who made it, put a huge hunks of onion in it and these tons of herbs that just kind of overpowered the flavor, and it just did not taste good. So needless to say, I never really cared for meatloaf very much. However, when I got married, my husband grew up on meatloaf. He loved meatloaf. He loved meatloaf sandwiches and just meatloaf in general. And so, being the wonderful wife that I am, I had to figure out a way to make meatloaf in a way that he was used to eating and also in a way that I could tolerate eating. And of course, I found the way, of course. And so I have been enjoying meatloaf since I married my husband because I figured out how to make it. So today, I'm going to share with you all my gluten-free, keto-friendly meatloaf. It is so quick, so easy, so delicious. So if you want printable versions of this, you can check out my website at janet'sdeliciouslowcarbkitchen.com. You can find printable versions of this and other goodies there for you. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also, when you hit that subscribe button, there's a little notification bell right next to the subscribe button. Click the notification bell. That way you can be notified every time I put out a new video. And while you do that, let's get cooking. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. In a large bowl, combine 1 pound of ground beef or ground meat of your choice, 1/4 cup of keto ketchup. If you need a recipe for keto ketchup, I'll put a link in the description for my 2-minute keto ketchup. That's what I'm using here. It's really, really quick. And 1 egg. Mix these all together until they're fully combined. Make sure the egg is completely distributed throughout all of the meat. This is what helps keep your meatloaf from falling apart. The egg is a binding agent that keeps everything together. So really make sure that that egg yolk gets broken up and fully distributed in the meat. Add a 1/2 teaspoon of dry oregano, a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and about an 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper, and a 1/4 cup of low-carb dried breadcrumbs or almond meal. If you don't have low-carb dried breadcrumbs, I always make my own. Mix these all together until they're fully combined. Make sure you really get in there and stir it good. You want everything fully distributed in the mixture. You don't want to get a bite that's got a bunch of oregano and another bite that doesn't have anything. So really make sure you mix those dry breadcrumbs in really well and all the seasonings really well. It takes a little bit of elbow grease sometimes, but really get in there and make sure everything is fully combined. Once it's fully combined, stir the mixture into an 8 by 4 inch loaf pan. And use a spatula or a large mixing spoon and spread the mixture evenly throughout the pan. Use your fingers or the back of a spoon to make sure that all the meat has been pushed together to form a loaf. You really want to make sure it's packed good and tight. That way when you cut it, it comes out in one piece and doesn't fall apart in chunks. So really make sure it's packed down firm. Then bake at 350 for 30 minutes. Once it's cooked for 30 minutes, spread 3 more tablespoons of keto ketchup over the top of the meatloaf and use a spoon to spread it evenly to cover the entire top of the meatloaf. Now, if you're using ground beef and it looks like there's a lot of extra grease or fat buildup, you can drain that out first if you want to, and then put the keto ketchup on top, or you can just leave it in the pan. It's whatever your preference is. Once the keto ketchup is spread nice and even over the top, then bake the meatloaf for another 10 to 15 minutes more, or just until the internal temperature reaches 160 degrees. Make sure you don't overcook it because you will dry out the meatloaf if you do that, but you want it to be at least 160 degrees. For me, it only took 10 minutes after I put the ketchup on it to get it up to 160 degrees, but everybody's oven is different, so check it at 10 minutes, and if it's not that 160 degrees, then pop it in for a couple more minutes. Also, if you want, you can double this recipe and bake it in a 9 by 5 inch loaf pan. If you're needing a bigger loaf, because this really doesn't make that big of a loaf. It makes plenty for my family because we only have 3. But if you have a bigger family, you might want to double the recipe. Bake it in a little bit bigger pan, and you can still bake it for 30 minutes and it should be fine. Just check the internal temperature and make sure it is 160 degrees when it's done baking. Once it's fully baked, let it stand for at least 5 minutes before slicing it. Don't try to slice into it right away. You want all the ingredients and all the flavor to set in real tight. So let it stand for at least 5 minutes. Then slice your desired size, place it on a plate. This goes really good with my keto mashed potato substitute. I'll put a link in the description to that if you want to use that for a side dish. Otherwise, you can slap the meatloaf on a sandwich or just eat it as it is with some veggies on the side. However you choose to eat it, eat and enjoy. For the keto ketchup, in a small bowl, combine 6 ounces of tomato paste and 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar. Whisk these both together until they're fully combined and smooth. Add about 1/8 of a teaspoon of pepper, more or less depending on how much of a pepper taste you want in your ketchup. 1 tablespoon of monk fruit sweetener or a sweetener of your choice. Again, you can put more or less of the sweetener depending on how sweet tasting you want your ketchup. 1 teaspoon of salt. 1 teaspoon garlic powder. 1 teaspoon onion powder. Whisk these together until all the seasonings are fully distributed in the ketchup and everything is fully combined and smooth. And a 1/2 tablespoon of water. Whisk these together until fully combined and smooth. Now, after you whisk everything together, if you still think that this is too thick, you can add water about a 1/2 tablespoon at a time until it's the desired consistency that you want. I usually use around 2 tablespoons of, I don't like my ketchup extremely thick, but I don't like it super runny either. I like it somewhere in between. So about 2 tablespoons works good for me, but you add as much water as you think you need to make it your desired consistency. Then spoon it into a mason jar or an airtight container and store it in the refrigerator for up to 1 week.
And that's our recipe of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you want more videos like this, then make sure you click the thumbs up button, click the subscribe button, leave me a comment if you want to. Let me know if there's any recipes that you'd like to learn how to make, and I'll do what I can to get those out there for you. And as always, keep cooking.